Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon, illustrator and creativity coach, founder of the Creative Condition, artist and writer. I bring 20 years of creative industry experience and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness, to you through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. You'll get a nourishing mix of creative industry professionals and people far and wide using creativity in ways that can take our learning to the next level so we can maximise our unique blend. The show's been supported from day one by Illustration X, a tremendous illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. The music for the show is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. And for everything else, for my coaching, resources and inspiration, head to thecreativecondition.com.
I think that's definitely what got us through it. We're passionate about it. We wanted to make a game that we wanted to play, and something that had our own unique style, something that we didn't see anywhere else.
Today I'm playing the naive fools. I ask a lot of questions around artwork in video games with Oddbug Studio's environment artist and art director Martin Reimann. We're going to get into solitude, teamwork, the benefits of making a game that you first want to play for yourself, making it through passion, and then taking it to the world like any form of great art. It's a good one. I don't know much about this world, and that's why I'm going to ask a lot of silly questions, but Martin is here to ease me through. This is the Creative Condition. How are you doing, guys? Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast. My name is Ben Talon, your host, back with another episode as this thing rumbles on. It's been over 10 years now, so welcome back if you're a regular to the show. It's a joy to have you as ever. Hello, if you're new, how'd you find me? Let me know, and I hope you enjoy. I would love your feedback. I'd love to hear from my audience. I'm passionate about creativity. That's what we talk about on this show. We talk about creativity in its many, many limitless, countless forms, because creativity is one hell of a beast that you can't ever truly articulate, understand. You just have to lean into it, use your experience to keep understanding it, feeling it more and more, trusting it, following its ways. If that sounds all very ephemeral and wafty, then that's exactly what it is, because that's the nature of this beast, as I've found out over the years. But I love talking about it. I love talking to people about their version of it, its importance and necessity to the human condition, particularly in these tumultuous times. So welcome. If that's your thing, stick around. Tell a friend if you like the show. Drop a little rating and review. That always helps too. How are you all doing? I hope you're good. We've had a bit of sunshine here in the UK. That always helps. Spirits are a little lifted. Conversations out there are a little more buoyant on that dog walk. I'm always going on about the dog walk because it's a great way to start your day with a form of canine therapy. That's how I look at it. Oh God, I've had so many guests, and Martin is the latest guest who's coming up today. Martin Reimann, who is the art director and environment artist at Oddbug Studio, makers of Tales of Iron and Tales of Iron 2. Wonderful games. We're going to get into all that and the backstory of Oddbug Studio today. But first, a little thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, who've been around since day one back in 2015. That is Illustration X. They represent a global roster of illustrators, animators, live artists, fashion artists, storyboard artists, you name it, they've got it. Go and have a look at their wonderful portfolios at illustrationx.com right now. Do a lot of great work for the creative industry too. Visual communicators especially, they are champions of intellectual property rights in this age of automation. It's a very fraught battle going on just now between big tech and independent artists, and they are there with a voice. They do a lot of good work around that stuff, so check them out. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the recent episode with Rogeshri De Rio Wan. She is a wonderful HIV and sexual health consultant and doctor, and a brilliant book, Unheard, The Medical Practice of Silencing, threw up the idea that I had for a conversation around deep listening and its role in creativity and the creative process, because we're all just so busy and stretched every which way in this world, and I wanted to delve into the idea of what we're missing when we don't have time to listen and observe and feel a person's energy and the body language and everything else, and whether that's down to understanding our clients, understanding ourselves, really immersing ourselves in the lived experience. Regeshri was fantastic, and I highly recommend her book, which is now on the Creative Condition reading list over at thecreativecondition.com. So go and have a look. It's on there with about 40 other books that I keep adding to that will help you to inform your understanding of creativity. That's why I created it. You'll find all the resources over there on the website free. That's over 300 episodes of the podcast right there, ready for you to delve into now. Over 40 books on the reading list. What else? Well, my coaching, of course. If you want something a little more one-to-one or tailored for your business, get in touch. I am a creativity coach. I offer my pit stop session, which is a one-to-one intensive audit of foundational creativity. That means that we go through everything that contributes to your creativity within the specific context of your life and your lived experience and your professional setup. And we look for frustrations, blind spots, opportunities, strengths. We go through all of it. We go through environment. We go through dark sense of humor. We go through mischief. We go through adversity, neurodivergence. We look at everything. And by the end of it, I write up a report, notes of recommendation to realign you and get you set on your way again. I do that for businesses. We do it for staff that have been in the game a long time and need an injection of passion. Maybe they become too reliant upon their processes and their responsibilities. And how do we get them excited and passionate again and tune into that real person underneath it all, that sense of magic that maybe was there at art college, for example. And also for new people who are coming into the industry that maybe don't have the courage to trust their own voice and their lived experience and their personality enough to contribute the big ideas that they feel like they are capable of. I can help you with that too. I've been doing that with agencies. I'm happy to have that conversation. I'll come in for a cup of coffee if you like. We can have a Zoom meeting, or just fill out the form on the website and let me know where you're at, your interests, and we can do either of those things and look at working together. If you're a freelancer or an individual, there's a rate for that too. So get in touch, drop me a little note through the form, tell me your problems, tell me where you're up to, tell me what crossroads you're at, or just what you want to explore, and I can help you there too. Whether that's short-term, long-term, we will work that out through the process. Maybe we'll kick off with a pit stop and then we'll go from there in terms of long-term coaching. But I love this. I'm a complete empath. I adore helping people. I am passionate about creativity. I have a 15-plus year experience of it through study, through my own experience, through all that time and then some in the creative industry. So let me know over at thecreativecondition.com//coach. Love doing that stuff. It's been very buoyant this year so far. It's showing great promise in becoming a major part of my practice, even more major now moving forward because it already is. So get in touch, say hello. But without further ado, let's talk about Martin. So I met Martin on the dog walk here in Salisbury. He's another victim of that. Whereas I have a great conversation and then say, we need to talk about this on the podcast because I think my listeners will love you. And here comes another one. So Oddbug Studio, Martin's going to tell us the origins of that studio. Save that one for you. But I came across him when he was working on Tales of Iron. So here's the description from the Oddbug website that you can check out, oddbug.co.uk. Set in a grim land plagued by war, Tales of Iron is a hand-drawn 2D RPG adventure. That's a role-playing game, if you didn't know that already. With punishingly brutal combat. As Reggie, heir to the Rat Throne, you must restore your broken kingdom by banishing the Frog Clan and their merciless leader, Greenwort. As you explore the deceivingly charming world, you'll encounter a cast of colourful companions ready to aid you in your adventure. So that charming world is made up of great writing by Martin's partner Dan. But Martin is the environment artist and the art director, so he oversees all these beautiful, these turquoises, these greens that I'm looking at right now, these characters with their beautiful graphic style. We're going to get into the origin of that, what Martin does on a day-to-day basis, what Oddbug Studio does and how these games come to pass, because it's really fascinating to me as somebody who hasn't seriously gamed since the age of about 19, when I was still studying. I played multiplayer stuff with friends at uni, but by that point, my own solo pursuits of gaming had finished. And it's not that I don't still love that world, it's just that my life has not really put me in a circumstance where I've had time to do it. My passions have gone elsewhere, as we touch upon in this chat. But Tales of Iron 2 has just come out, and that's called the Whiskers of Winter, and it's getting great reviews, as Martin's going to tell us at the moment. I'm delighted to see it because I saw Martin on the dog walk in his low moments, I saw him in his high moments. It's great to check in with someone in such an informal, playful environment and hear what's going on, which is why I wanted to talk to him for this podcast about that. But Tales of Iron 2, Whiskers of Winter, here we go. And so, a new tale begins. Just as the rats of the south start to piece their lives together following the great war between rodent and frog, an old and unspeakable evil stirs in the north, wings black as death, fangs sharp as steel, and a thirst for blood rivaled only by their insatiable hunger for vengeance. As Arlo, young heir to the Warden of the Wastes, journey through the vast snow-ravaged lands of the north in an epic quest to overcome the Dark Wings once and for all. Hunt down giant beasts, unite disparate clans, upgrade your settlement, and discover a terrible secret of blood and crown. The time for heroes is over, for the kingdom needs a warrior. Forged of the north, as cold as the snow that shrouds these lands, a rat carved from iron. I absolutely love it, and I really want to play these games. So when my kids eventually get around to that, I'm probably going to steer them towards a platform where I can play Tales of Iron. It's very exciting. And without further ado, let's get into it. My conversation with Martin Reimann. Like I said, if you get a chance to tell a friend about the show, please do that. It helps a lot. Rate, review, and all that. The Creative Condition book is available also at thecreativecondition.com or bentalentwriter.com. That's it. Let's talk to Martin. Still getting favourable reviews? Still?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, still good
Yeah,
reception.
it's very positive. I really like it. I was kind of waiting for us to start to do this because I wanted the game to be out, just so I kind of know where we stand, you know.
Yeah.
So but we're on 79 Open Critic.
Nice,
really nice.
That's really good. Did you feel that? Was it like, because I sort of know when I've done work that I'm going to be proud of, and I know that resonance will kind of carry to the end user. Like, did you get a sense that you'd done a good job and that it might go that way? Not arrogance, but did you feel semi-confident?
I think because the first game did so well for us, and it had such a good reception, I felt definitely more confident with this one, for sure. So it was definitely easier than the first game. Because with the first one, it was like, you don't know how people are going to take it. It's the first game in the trilogy that we want to do ultimately. So we just didn't know how it was going to go, but it went really well.
Yeah.
And with this one, I really kind of I was hoping it would go well, and it did. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I say, it's one of the I've done. God, I don't know, over 300 of these kind of conversations now, and I think I've only touched on games design once in all that time. It was a lady called Anna Hollenrake she's worked on a number of things, kind of indie stuff too, and so it's a field that I'm a little naive on, even though I had a big gaming phase in my late teens and early 20s, but kind of drifted away since then. But it's still a medium I find quite magic, and I don't know, I think I grew I like to sort of get into childhood, but first of all, I think early gaming is intriguing me more. So what are your gaming origins? What's the first thing that you really remember loving?
Yeah, I think the first game that comes to mind is Age of Empires, the strategy game.
Yeah,
that's the first game that I used to play with my dad's old laptop. I remember that's the first kind of memory. And then there's like the old racing games and Croc, the platformer game.
Yeah.
So like these sort of games, and StarCraft strategy games. But yeah, yeah. There's loads. I pretty much played games ever since I could.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your first console, or was it PC?
It was always PC.
Was it? See, I never had a PC. I had I think my first was Commodore 64 was my first console, and I remember getting Did you ever play the Dizzy games? Maybe I'm probably showing my age now, 42, but Dizzy was like a little pixelated white egg with red shoes, and it was 2D platform. It was immensely frustrating because he, as you'd expect with an egg, he was very fragile. So all you could do was left, right, jump, left or right, and so you'd go tumbling and you'd overshoot on a jump, and then he'd crack, and then that was it. You'd lost a life, and you right back to the start if you lost 3 lives. So there was so much jeopardy in those old platform games. But even those very simple black background, colourful, pixelated worlds just did something in my imagination that opened up a whole. I don't know. It really did. It was like steroids for the imagination for a kid that age.
Yeah, definitely. Like games, the they're like arts in their own way. So there's so many different art styles and ways of playing, and it's definitely an art. It's an art form in itself.
So you're originally from Czech Republic.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what was the sort of cultural landscape for you growing up? Like I grew up in like a working class family, and this was long pre-internet, and what that meant, and I look back and I'm thankful for, not that there's a right or wrong, but I was thankful for the scarcity that I had culturally.
Mm-hmm.
It meant that I really obsessed over what I got into, and really sort of had to not only work to get it,
Mm-hmm.
so like saving up for a magazine might take weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and so getting that magazine, I really treasured every photograph, every bit of typography, not that I consciously knew that. What was your cultural horizon? So sort of like, were you in an artistic family? Or?
I think it was very much the same, kind of like a working family. We didn't have much. I was kind of pressured with everything I had, which was really nice. But growing up in Czech Republic, I was there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Because I was born there, then 10 years in Czech Republic, then 10 years in Belgium. It feels kind of nostalgic thinking back on it, because it's like it was those first 10 years where I was kind of figuring out. Well, I was just a kid. I didn't really know who I was. So Czech Republic is more of a that's more of a nostalgic memory, and it's really when I go to Belgium, and when that's when I started really figuring out who I was and kind of what I want to do with art and stuff. But my mom, she's really she was a kindergarten teacher, and now she's she's a quilting teacher. So she's probably the most creative out of the family. So I definitely got some artistic traits from her, for sure.
That's interesting. So on that basis, would it be safe to say that you would have been supported in following that thread? Because I know a lot of people get dissuaded because of ideas of, well, that's a better career, that's more stable, etc., etc.
Yeah. I was definitely my parents definitely supported me all the way through, because they saw that I had talent from very, very early on, and they just really supported me. It was really nice of them.
It's interesting, and something you said there actually is perfect. It's like that. I don't care what anyone says, that no one knows who they are, especially not in those really early childhood years. I don't think until this is a common thing, but everyone echoes that maybe around late 20s we start to trust. We know, of course, we have a sense, we have clues, but I think with any sort of certainty tends to be getting out of 20s, but definitely not as kids. Like it's this chaotic, almost animalistic sensory landscape, and that's what I mean about the games. I think they're beautiful clues because they speak to us on an unconscious level. And when I think of whether it's Dizzy, or I even think of like Batman games, and I remember vividly the sounds and the colours and everything, but a massive one was like the Final Fantasy games. And I think that this is why a lot of us turn up at kind of art college with video game art or anime art, because it speaks to something in a younger person that doesn't have a conscious understanding of themselves.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd agree with?
I think so. With games, what really sparks my kind of imagination is the freedom of what you can do in the game. So it's not necessarily the story or the like the stories in games. I like to go in a game and be able to kind of choose what I want to do, and be immersed in that world. That was actually one of my dissertations at uni, was about immersion in games. And that's that's what I really like about games, just getting immersed in a world, being able to do what I want, be like a big sandbox, and just kind of be in that world. Yeah,
there's something lovely. Yeah, even now, maybe even now, I think it's more just the kind of pace of my life and parenthood and things that I don't really find the time for that now. I guess I get it the same in other forms of culture, in books and in certain TV shows that allow that immersion too. But there is something about the control and the kind of you being the protagonist almost in a game that gives another level of that. And I remember that in open world games like Final Fantasy and like the Zelda games. There's just something about all of that is, it's really quite magical, isn't it? And you can see why people really lose themselves in that too. Yeah.
Because it's the only medium where you are the main character and you can do what you want. It's the game's kind of guiding you through it, but ultimately it's up to you the pace of the game that you go through it and what you do in it as well.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Yeah, and in terms of an escape, sometimes I used to. I didn't love any of the jobs I was doing part time as a kid. I didn't hate them as much, but it was work, and I was looking forward to finishing work in supermarkets and things like that. And I remember at that point, it was the idea of coming home and getting in that world. For some reason, now I think of Silent Hill, and just being in that that detachment and in something where there's jeopardy and where there's choice. It's just a beautiful feeling, actually. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It's only getting better now. Like you said, you've not played games in a while. It's been years and years.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you go back into it now and play like on the PlayStation 5, there's some games now like The Last of Us, God of War, just huge. Red Dead Redemption, one of my favorite games.
Yeah.
Just giant open world games that just incredible. Especially if you play them on a big TV.
Yeah.
Proper sound.
It's a huge industry now, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Like, bigger than movies now.
I was going to say, I remember reading a report about the kind of UK creative sector and the weight that games has in that. It's dominant, pretty dominant, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the first sort of, what were the seeds of you thinking that there might be a career in that world, or did you take a more kind of art path before ending up there?
Yeah, I kind of got dropped into it. I didn't think I would be in games, actually. As much as games inspired me, and as much as I liked playing them and just thinking about them, I never thought I would actually be making games. But it was in high school. My art teacher, actually, Mr. William Root, he was the one who really got me into taught me about what I could be as an artist. So he kind of showed me different mediums. He showed me mixed media, watercolors and stuff. So I was kind of thinking I would be maybe an illustrator or doing illustrations for books or book covers. That was my main idea going before I went to college, before I went to uni. I thought I'll be doing something like that. But then when I was choosing a uni, I saw that the England actually had one of the first games courses in Norwich. And I was like, oh, actually, that's pretty cool. And there wasn't that many of them back then. So I just kind of went for it. And then just from then on, I just was like, yep, games, that's it. Yeah.
Did you find it relatively easy to kind of find your path within games design and that sort of thing? Like, did you ever connect it with your kind of personality, or is that something you were aware of as you were doing it?
I think game design not as much, because I was always into the art side of games. Designing games, that was always, I kind of wasn't too sure, but it was the art of games, and because the games core was mainly focused on art as well, I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I always wanted to kind of make games that are visually striking, have a unique art style, and kind of just build on that. Yeah, make it as good as I can.
Did you get the sense of a personal style in that? In that time? I asked because it took me a couple of. There was a seed. There always the seeds of it were there, but it took me 2 years. I'd say about 2 years after uni before I started to feel confident in that the work I was producing was right for me, but spoke for something in me. It took a while. It took a while, and some good constructive criticism from friends who had more experience than me. And I think everyone's on a different timeline to that degree.
Yeah. I definitely had a very strong personal style quite early on. Actually, that's something I really focused on, because I knew that it'd be good for portfolios, for getting a job. If I focused on a strong art style, I could really show that I'm different, and that I can be consistent in that style as well. Yeah. So that's really something I focused on. Yeah. And then when I got into games, I turned that into environment art. Basically, that's what I'm doing now, is just environments in games and making them look really nice. Yeah. And it really works.
Was it a steep learning curve in terms of understanding the tech side of it and the context, as in, if I was to, just for example, if I was to lend my style to a game, I would have to ask a lot of naive questions in terms of understanding the restrictions of the difference between what I might create that sits in a PSD file and then what has to be functionable and can be dissected, I suppose.
Yeah, it's definitely a big learning curve. It was actually my first game that I worked on was called Cosmic Couch, and that was a after I graduated from the uni, we went to my friends from the uni. We decided to go to a competition in Scotland, which was like it's called Dare to Be Digital, and so we formed a team, and there were other teams from other schools, and that was the first time where we got to make a game. So every team got to come up with an idea, made the game. I think it was in 2 months, and really kind of just drop in and figure it out. None of us knew how to make a game, really. We just went through our course. We graduated, but it was only the art side of games, not the technical part. So the technical part, we just had to figure it out. So luckily we had a pretty good coder who kind of introduced us to one of the game engines, which is the software that you make the game on. And we slowly just figured it out and made a small game.
Yeah.
And then with every game we just improved, found new ways to optimize the game to make things faster. But yeah, it's definitely, I'm still learning things. Yeah.
Yeah. What would that look like in terms of? So you work digitally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what would that look like when you say an engine, like a game engine? Like I that's where my knowledge cuts. So I'm like, what does that mean? Like, where do and I mean, you don't have to give me the intrinsic explanation, but what sort of things do you have to consider? Like, is it? I don't know. I don't have anything to come with. I work digitally on a Wacom tablet, and I work in Photoshop. So I make the image on Photoshop, and then I have to put it into the engine, which means let's say let's say I'll make a tree, but draw up a tree, put it into Photoshop, and then I have to well, I don't know, that's quite complicated. Because I think a big part of it is optimization, because sometimes when you draw stuff in Photoshop, it can be a really large file. Mm-hmm. So you want it to be as small as possible, so that the game doesn't get bogged down with the size of the files. In the same way a website would drag when the images are too high res.
That's it. So, when we first started, it was just throw it in, see what happens.
Okay.
And obviously the game ran horribly. But slowly we figured out ways to make it better. Like to maybe we can make one big file with loads of trees, and then we put it into the engine, and then the engine figures out, oh yeah, there's a bunch of trees on this image, and it kind of does it for you in a way.
Okay.
But the programmers as well that work with us, they know way more than I do as well, so they help with this optimization as well. They know how to properly put it into the engine, where to put it, and how to optimize it in the end as well. So I mean, without programmers who actually know the code and who know the engine, it will be
because like anything else, it's essential to be part of a fluid team, isn't it? So they understand. You can't understand everything about a specialist role, but at least if there's a basic understanding of one of the requirements and needs and turnarounds and tech specifications, then I guess that's when the whole machine works and you've got a common language.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
It's really interesting. So how many did you say in the initial team on the first game?
In the when we started with the competition, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe like 5 of us. But then so after the competition, we did win an award. I don't think it was the main one, but we got noticed, and that was really nice. I don't know what the reward was. Probably for art, like art design. But then Sony, the games side of Sony, actually were there, and they noticed us as a team, and they decided to sponsor us.
Okay.
So that was really nice. And then from then on, we built the team. We got an office, we got computers, and we probably started working. So after that, it was 5 of us. I think it was 3. Yeah, 3 of us and two coders at the beginning, and pretty much the same now, actually. Yeah,
and so it's the same team.
Yeah, different people, but
Oddbug.
There's three of us founders. Yeah, and then coders kind of went and gone. And some stayed, some went.
Brilliant. There's an important lesson there, I think, for any creator, and it's to not be too frightened, both of technology like I remember Andy Sandoz. I'm always quoting him on this show because it was a very memorable interview, and he was the president of DNAD at the time. I don't know if you're aware of DNAD.
Not sure.
Design and Art Direction. It stands for. They're a kind of student awards body in London, but they do a lot of supporting work to get students into industry. But Andy said at the time that technology. He was always saying technology is not going to shoot you, but he was saying don't be afraid of it. Like, you don't have to know any one thing. You don't have to understand AI. You don't have to understand code. But by having it in your thinking, it will inform your decisions, and therefore you remain, you versatile. And so to not be afraid of tech, to jump in and kind of find out and make a few mistakes. And I think that's the same for just the whole creative process. Yeah. And once you start, not only once have you started somewhere that you can begin to find out more and improve and get better, but also to be seen. Like I meet so many artists who are kind of, maybe it's procrastination, maybe it's perfectionism. There's many antagonists of the creative process that stop people from sharing their work early. But I do think it's a great way to learn, to share, to get feedback, but also to be noticed. You don't know who's looking, especially in this world of social media. Like, it often feels like no one is looking. We've all shared stuff and got no comeback and everything else. But I always said to bands, we worked with bands in Manchester, and so often you'd see it's a horrible experience, but you'd see a band step up on stage and 3 people have turned up, and you can see them demoralised. But I think you have to hold it together and perform like there might be one person in the room that might change your life. And I think that story there with Sony is quite important, because there's no way you would have dared to predict that. And and when you sit and think about that in the future, it's highly, in your mind, it's highly unlikely, but it's always possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, we were just really passionate about what we were doing. We didn't really think about what could be next. We just wanted to make a game. We were good friends, and we just did our best, and we learned on the spot. We kind of winged it in a way. And it worked out really well for us. Yeah.
And I think that passion and that resonance carries so much further than people ever realise. And I think if you are just doing it and you're doing it for the right reasons, and when I say right reasons, I don't mean like, starving artist style. I mean, we all need to make money, but if you're doing it in a way that is in tune with your personality and what you really want to be doing, I do think that opens doors in its own way.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's definitely what got us through it. We was passionate about it. We wanted to make a game that we wanted to play, and something that had our own unique style, something that we didn't see anywhere else. And worked out.
In terms of story, do you have writers in the team? Is it a collaborative effort?
It's mainly Jack, who's the producer on the team. He comes up with a story. He's really good at it. He has he's got the entire trilogy like planned out, and so he plans out the story, the kind of general quest, what happens in the game, but we go through it together as well. Yeah, and we kind of give our feedback and whatnot, but we mainly trust him to make it what it is. It's really good.
And so between the kind of competition and the Sony thing, what were the steps then and between then and Tales of Iron?
It was, if I remember, I think they gave us maybe 6 months to kind of produce almost like a vertical slice of the game, because the game that we worked on at the competition, that wasn't really something we wanted to continue on. It was only a small little test, but we had better ideas. And one of the ideas was Dan's, who's the animator and another artist on the team. His graduation project was actually an idea for a game that we all really liked. It was called The Lost Bear, and it was about a small girl who gets lost in the forest, and kind of she's there with her brother, but it was the whole thing. But that was the main game that we wanted to make. So they gave us 6 months to kind of make a vertical slice, a little prototype, and see kind of where we go from there. And ultimately they liked it, and then they paid us for the whole thing, for the full project. Well, there was some bumps later on, but eventually it worked out.
That's cool. So when you say sponsorship, is in that world, is that a sort of we'll give you some money to get started, and in the hope that you produce something really cool, and then we'll
it was funding for the computers, for the office, to fund our wages, and then later on when we got properly started, it's like monthly monthly income.
Is that quite standard? Because that of course that's what I was wondering about, because of the longevity of a project of making a full game. You have to support yourself somehow, and if it's going to be if your money comes from a royalty thing moving forward, then what's happening in the meantime? So I guess is that an industry standard thing?
I think so. Yeah, it's we basically come up with a plan for the however years we're working on the game. We tell them every month we're going to hit these milestones, and then this is what's going to be in each milestone, and then every month we give them what we made, and if they're happy, then we get paid for the next one, and then when the game's done, we have to repay what was spent on the game, and then recoup. And then after that, the royalties come in half, whatever the percentage is.
Okay, yes, it's not too dissimilar to a book deal, really. Yeah. It's the kind of advance, but then the advance is, I speak to a lot of authors, and I think it's the case with my Japanese book where I'm still in the advance. And that's interesting. That's really good, because the truth is the financial security is key, really, because it's very hard if you're under acute financial pressure. It's very hard to stay consistently in a creative headspace and relax into that process. Yeah.
It's hitting those milestones. It can be really stressful. So you get a month to make something, and even though you've planned it out, sometimes just creative isn't not there, and you just got to do something, and that gets really stressful.
Yeah,
but luckily, we've been consistent, and we've hit every milestone we've made, and it's been good. But it can get tough.
I guess the longer you've worked together, the more you'll kind of get used to each other's routines and kinks, or whatever it might be. I suppose with experience, does that help?
Yeah, definitely. It's with my friend Dan. We really have we've got a similar art style. That's kind of why we joined up, and so we kind of know how we both work together, and we just slowly figure it out. But the longer we do it, the better it gets, for sure.
That's really cool. So how long so Tales of Iron, the first one, would it be classed as an indie game?
I would class it double A.
Double A,
because there's double A, triple A.
No, I don't. Oh, okay. I have no idea about that.
So I think maybe the first one will be an indie game. I think it's quite hard to really put it into boxes, but I guess an indie, because purely, and when you say an indie game, is a company that's not being published by anyone. It's just a company that then publishes it on their own as well. So really we're not really an indie game because we're being published by a publisher.
Yeah.
And sponsored by a publisher as well. So we're more of because the games are AA and AAA. AAA games are like massive, the biggest, Final Fantasy games, whatnot. And then AA is like just smaller budget, but still appearing as a big, as a quality made game. And then I guess when you say indie game, people think more of like smaller projects made by one or two people.
It's really interesting. So would there have been targets, so to speak, in terms of sales, or was it? Did you? I guess I'm thinking of you guys as a team. Like, did you have a sense of what you wanted upon release? Throughout the process, or was this a complete unknown?
It was just see what happens with the first one. Yeah, that's really what it was. We just wanted to make a good first impression with the first game, and see what people think. And then we didn't even think that we would recoup in the end. We just kind of hoped for the best, but it worked out. Worked out enough to make that another publisher picked us up to make the next game. It was just hope for the best with the first one.
Yeah. So what kind of timeline are we talking for in its entirety?
It was about 3 years.
3 years. Wow. Yeah, that's a long project. Yeah. I mean, that must come with periods of fatigue and challenging areas.
Yeah. Well, we've talked in the park for over the years that I've known you, and I went through some phases for sure. Burnout, big one, and yeah, just got to pull through it. I feel a lot better now. Now that we've done the second game, and I kind of know the flow. I know how my mind works a little bit better. But yeah, especially so in Tales of Iron 2, it was really hard the first beginning because I moved from Manchester to Salisbury, and it was the first time I was living on my own because before I would live with the guys in the same flat. We would work together, we would live together, everything, and then I moved here, and suddenly I'm on my own, and we have to talk through Discord, work through Discord. Do you know Discord?
It's, I'm aware of it. I've never used it.
Yeah, it's just like a communication software that you can just have on all day, and then you can just talk to each other. So that's a big difference, because going from working in an office to working on your own, just talking through a mic, yeah, that was a big one, and that definitely influenced my how much I got just burned out from it. Not burned out, but yeah, that was big change.
Well, you lose something, don't you? By I'm currently working out my own relationship with solitude and connection. It's massively important for creative process, and it's also a really individual thing because everyone's different in terms of what they need. I think we all need connection, but some people need more of one and less of the others, and so on. Introversion, extroversion. Did you find the cutoff difficult?
Yeah, very. Because it was basically 10 years of just being around my friends and my colleagues, and suddenly just being on my own. So yeah, that was very difficult. But that's why I got Artie, my dog.
Yeah.
And he was a massive help, because suddenly I got to meet other people.
Yeah.
It got me out of the house. That was a big one.
Yeah.
Got me to meet new people, and yeah, I slowly figured it out.
Yeah.
And, I'm in a much better place now.
Yeah. On an emotional level, it's challenging, but also workflow. You can't. There's lags with technology. There's there can be problems with that side of it. I think that you invariably will lose time because of that. You can't just shout across a table or or sit down and sketch things out. There's all those things when you add up the seconds and minutes that are lost through that loss. I imagine that's something to navigate. Yeah,
because when you're in an office, like you say, you can just go to someone else's table and see, like, what do you think? What do you think of this? I got something to show you, whatnot. But when you're online, you don't know if another person is at that desk, so you got to write it out, or you got to be like, call out, or just wait for them to come back. So it does slow things down as well. And so it's very different. I do miss the office. No, people say that they prefer working from home, but I actually prefer the office a little bit more.
I do. I've always think I've been at my creative best when I've been in shared workspaces. Like you and I, without even knowing it, we both worked out of M1 in Manchester. I think maybe we didn't overlap, but that was an interesting. But spaces like that, I've just found them brilliant, because that balance of having your own workspace and the ability to close the door, but also knowing that you can just go outside, meet somebody in the corridor or by the kettle, is lovely. It's human connection, isn't it? You feel a part of something. I also think creativity is contagious. So when you're around people that are also doing something they care about or are passionate about, that's infectious.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you compensate for that side of it? Like, do you have other culture, other interests that stimulate the creativity?
I still play a lot of games. That's the big one. That's where I get my inspiration from. Movies. I like just browsing the internet a lot, just looking for inspiration, Pinterest, ArtStation, just kind of like going through, see what other artists made. That's kind of that's how I kind of recharge a little bit because when I don't have people around me, I've got the internet.
Yeah.
So just find interesting, maybe subreddits, where people post interesting things, and that's what gets me inspired when I see other artists making good work.
Yeah.
And work that relates to my style as well, so I can maybe improve on it. Yeah.
Yeah, when you mention the dog walk there, that's important. That's important sometimes. Like Laura will say to me, like, "Did you see anyone on the dog walk today?" And I know sometimes she's asking that question because she knows that when I sit out here all day sometimes and the rain's pounding the windows, and I've seen some bad news headlines, that can be bad for introspective brains like ours that see the world in layers. it can be quite challenging at times. On a good day, I love this solitude, but on a bad day, I kind of I cling to those conversations on the dog field because it's just human connection, and then you come back a bit more stimulated, and you feel like you've been able to vent, or even just hear someone else venting. It's fine. Hearing Andy rant in the morning, it's just
absolutely.
It's quite. We all say it's kind of a therapy in its own way.
Definitely. Some days you just want to be like, oh, I just want to go out now. Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm interested in the process of creating Tales of Iron. First of all, like the art style and the origins of that. Was there a sort of sense of what this game might look like? And did that come from you? Was that influenced by the writing? What would tell us about this sort of the seed of it?
So I think the art style actually came from that first game, the Lost Bear, which was Dan's project. But because he had a very similar art style to mine, and we collaborated a lot, even at uni. I taught him some things, he taught me some things, and we figured out actually we're pretty good at working together, and our styles match. So that was a perfect fit to join the team and to eventually start working together. So that style is definitely what influenced the game as well, because we could see his story idea, and we could see how it could work with my environments and his characters, and we just kind of went with it. And we always thought we wanted to make a studio like Studio Ghibli, where if you see a Studio Ghibli film, they're like, oh, that's a Studio Ghibli movie, because it's a very unique style.
Yeah,
that's what we kind of wanted with Oddbug as well. When they see like, oh, that's an Oddbug game because of that style. We want to stick to that as well in the future as well. I don't think we'll ever lose the style. I think we'll evolve.
Yeah,
but that will always be with us.
Yeah. And in terms of the story, so it's Reggie, isn't it, the protagonist in the first game?
In the first game, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a rat. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
And what's the premise? Like, what's the world build, and what's going on in that world?
So you're in the first game, you're a prince of a kingdom of rats, and your kingdom gets attacked by these savage frogs, and your kingdom gets destroyed, and you have to go on a revenge adventure to defeat the frogs and save your kingdom.
And am I right in thinking it's a 2D platform sort of world?
Side on, so it's like a platformer.
Okay, and from a starting point from what was it? Is it art director? What would be your title?
Art director and an environment artist.
Yeah. So what would be a starting point? So I know, just loosely speaking, like the sort of 1920 by 1080 is an example of a slide I might create for a talk, and a lot of kind of on a screen viewed media. Like as a canvas for you as an artist, what would be your starting point, and what initial restrictions are you thinking about before you've even put pen to paper, so to speak, or pen to Photoshop?
The screen ratio actually that you mentioned, that's kind of like right now I'm concepting out the next game, and I actually do work in the screen size, because I want every scene in the game to almost look like a painting or to look like concept art, so that when someone you can basically take a screenshot of any single scene in the game and then be like, you print that out as a nice piece. So I do work in that sort of screen size ratio. So I think once the story is there and we kind of know what locations you're going to visit in the game, what characters you're going to interact with, then that's what Jack does. He kind of creates this big outline and a storyboard of what's going to happen in the game. And I look at that storyboard, and I'm like, okay, so this location is the Rat Kingdom. This location is the moles. There's the frogs, and I think about what how I can make each location look as unique as possible, and kind of how it would fit into the story and whatnot. So I kind of take it level by level, because as you go through the game, you visit different locations, and I want each location to be just striking and unique. So that's how I started this, by taking the story and dividing it up into the environment. And that's and just do I usually do little sketches of like a screen, like if you take a screenshot, and then I get the colors nailed down. What kind of architecture is there in the level? What kind of how these creatures live in that world? I kind of think about what if this was a real place, how would it function? Would they have windmills, or how do they make food? So is there farms? Do they have livestock? So it's like little, like in the first game we had like little bug cows. It's like a cow, but it's a bug, and that's how they make their food. So I just think about these sort of things, like how if this was a real world, what would be in there for it to make sense. And then once the main ideas for each level are laid down, then I actually start creating the assets, which are the actual individual pieces that make up the game, like the grass, the trees, the rocks. Yeah, and I put them into the game and start making the levels in the engine.
In terms of levels, so what are we talking? You walk to the end of the screen and it's a whole new frame, or do you traverse through the world? How does the sort of motion, the camera work within the game? I guess I'm asking, what level of work is required from you for each level? For example, would that be 20 artworks? Would that be, I don't know?
It varies. So our game works like that. You go into let's say a monitor size screen space, and then you can walk for a bit, but then there's a fade to black, and you transport into the next scene. Yeah. So it almost like you go scene by scene, but the scene is it can be any size. Sometimes we have really long ones, sometimes they're big and sprawling, vertical and whatnot. So it depends. Yeah.
Do you enjoy that process, like the detail and the kind of lending your mind to that world?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's my favorite bit. It's just kind of filling out because what Jag also does, when he comes up with a story, he lays out the actual structure of the ground that you move on. The mid ground it's called. So the grass that you jump on, the rocks that you interact with. So he draws out this line. That's what the character interacts with, but then I have to imagine what that line actually represents. Because if there's if it's just a straight line that you run on, that's obviously some sort of road or like a grass field or whatnot. But when it starts getting a bit more complicated, like it starts being vertical, zigzaggy and stuff, I have to figure out what that shape could actually be. So it could be like a house and then maybe that's like a roof, So it gets pretty complicated. But I like kind of figuring out what I can do with it.
Yeah, so there's a real puzzle element to it. That's really interesting. And what I find lovely, and maybe you've had feedback from players of the game and fans on this end, but just what we spoke about earlier with like whether it's Zelda and those open worlds, and I still think of Hyrule Castle and these places. Spent hours of my life exploring, and longer than I needed to. I just loved letting the character be in there, and I always wanted to go off and do the side quests and just talk to the people I didn't need to talk to that weren't adding anything to the story. Do you get that kind of loving feedback from players of the game?
Yeah, definitely. We've got a whole subreddit on Reddit where people just post screenshots and they're like, "Oh, look at that thing in the background," or they see like a painting in the background. They're like, "Oh yeah, I remember that's a reference to this and that."
Oh, that's cool.
It's really cool.
Yeah, that must help on the tough days.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's always like, oh, it's far in the future, but eventually I know it's worth it.
Yeah. And I guess like any profession that somebody might look upon with doting eyes, then there'll be periods when you want to burn it all down, where whether it's glitches. I don't have the terminology, but some of my favourite jobs, like when I look back on the actual process, there's been some headbanging periods, whether it's kerning for typography or whatever else, and there's always that in anyone's job.
They say that the game always comes together in the last 10-20% of the development process.
Yeah.
For the first 80%, it just looks horrible. You just want to burn it down. Yeah, like you said, because it's all just sketches, rough assets put in, and it just looks most of the time it just looks bad, and you just got to trust the process. Eventually it's going to look good.
Yeah.
And it always does.
And I remember watching the Indie Game of the movie. I'm sure you've seen it, but poor guy sat in the diner at like 4 a.m. just almost in tears and like completely broken. And I remember speaking to you on a tough day on the dog walk once, and I think that's when I brought that up actually. And you said it was I guess invariably with something that has got so much nuance that there's going to be those moments too.
And it's something that's so personal to you as well, because I spend every day just thinking about the world, being in the world, trying to make it as best as I can. And when it's not going well, or when I can't figure out what to do with that certain problem and whatnot, it just gets you really down.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because it's kind of game's like it's like our baby. It's the company's kid. And, I've got 3 of them now. So, but yeah.
And how about music? Like, how does that side of things work? You work with composers?
That one we work with two composers in Italy actually. Yeah, so we remotely.
Yeah.
And they're really good. They're just really independent. They kind of as we made the game, we give them a slice of the level or whatnot, and then they play it, and they give us ideas what they want to do with the sounds, with the atmosphere, with the music, and they're really good at just doing it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful process when people with different disciplines bounce off one another and feel something that someone has felt that has been informed by something that somebody else felt. I love that reciprocal process. And it must be that must feel great when that comes back and that resonates with what you felt about that piece of work. Yeah,
definitely. Especially with the music. At the games, people forget how much music and sounds actually make a difference in the game. Because for the first half of the development, you don't have sounds in the game, so it's just silent, and you're just walking through, you're running through, doing whatever you do in the game, but it's all silent. But then when they actually give us a version with the sound on, it's like whoa! Suddenly it's like the game comes to life.
Yeah,
and it's really cool.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, there's something not final, but there's something very crowning about music, and when you take that away from anything. Movie soundtracks, that kind of thing. It's so much is lost. So that's interesting actually that you build without that for a period of time, because I guess it's two-way that once you feel that, it will add to your sense of that world.
Because ultimately we have to first make the game playable in some as much as we can, and it's only then that the composers and the sound designers can go in and see what we actually mean by that level section, or what we want in that part of the game, and it's only then that they can start making the music and making the sounds. So it's kind of different parts.
Very interesting. And what was so coming into Tales of Iron 2, I guess you've got a sort of record of success now with the first game. What changed in terms of the scope of the undertaking then? Knowing that, like, were there more expectations placed on it?
I think we wanted to just make more of. Well, one of the big feedbacks from the players we got from the first game is just they want more of it. They loved everything there. They just want more, because it was quite a short game. It was about 8-9 hours, which is quite short for a game. So they just wanted more. So that's mainly what we focused on, is just more of the same. But we also added a few mechanics, improved on things that we didn't get to do in the first game. Included new mechanics that we didn't get to do in the first game, and did more of the same.
And you said you'd set out to write a trilogy. So was it a kind of one story was written with a vision from the outset, or did the first inform the second and so on?
I think I don't think it was from the beginning that we wanted to do a trilogy, but I think when we did the second one, we were like, might as well just might as well keep going. Have a nice little package.
Yeah. Is it a new protagonist in the second game?
I don't know if I can say.
Oh, okay.
Because we haven't announced the third game yet. So,
in the second game.
In the second game, yes. In the second game, it is a new program. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, sorry, I wasn't fishing for an exclusive.
Yeah, that's fine.
No, the second one, I'm reading up today. And what's the name of the?
Arlo.
Arlo, that's the one, yeah.
Arlo and Reggie.
Yeah, that's really cool. And did you get sort of fan anticipation this time around for the second game?
Yeah, it was massive. Yeah, people were so excited ever since we did that first announcement trailer. Yeah, everyone was really hyped for it.
Did that add pressure or just excitement or a bit of both?
I think a bit of both and a bit of confidence that people were looking forward to it, people want it, and people like what we do. So yeah,
I guess like you said earlier, it's like any art form. If as long as you're feeling it, as long as you're making a game you would want to play, then the chances are that's going to resonate with the end user. And if you can't ever please 100% of the people, and nor should you try to with that art. I don't think. But ultimately, if you're feeling it first and foremost, then at least you can down that sword and go, well, okay, a few people aren't going to like it, but we think that people who really love it will love it.
That's it. There's always, like, even with the second game, that they were mostly positive, but there is always going to be people who just either hate it or love it. But yeah, mostly it's been positive.
Yeah, I was delighted when you said you started to get good feedback on this one too. And as to how long this one, you said 8-9 hours for the first. What's the kind of average duration for this one?
Maybe 10 or 12, maybe more. Yeah, it also depends how good you're at the game, and because you can go as slow and as quick as you can as you want.
Yeah.
But it's about 12 hours.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And you said you wanted to create a distinct Oddbug style from the start. I think it's really important with any visual art. I think really it's not a question of niche or variation either, because again, that's a personal choice and it depends on the individual. But I think in a dominant, like I said earlier about the size of the gaming industry, there's probably an incredible amount of range these days in terms of visual style and everything, which just doubles down the importance of making what's your style and what's right, as opposed to looking around and going, it should be X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, you definitely want to stand out. So many games. Even a couple of years ago, I was thinking like, oh, I know every single game that's coming out. I was on the internet. I knew of every new release. But now there's thousands of games every day.
Yeah,
and you just got to come up with something that really stands out, something that's unique. And what really helped us with Tales of Iron is the rat side of things, because people love rats as pets. So when they saw a rat game, they're like, oh yeah, we can play as our rats. And one of the cool things was actually that the idea for Tales of Iron came from Dan, who had pet rats when we was working on the previous game as well, and we wanted to make a game. Well, it was like, how do we make ourselves different? We could do rats. Dan has pet rats, so we might as well include these rats in the game as well. So we named all the rats in the game after the pet rats as well.
Oh, really? As in Dan Lockwood, you mean?
No, Dan.
Sorry, of course, Dan in Oddbug.
Oddbug, sorry. Yeah,
my brain into dog walking for some reason, but yeah.
Yeah, too many Dans.
Yeah. That's really cool. So there's sentimental attachment there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's what gets people excited, is when they can relate to it on a personal level. So it's like if it was a game about dogs, I'm sure people would love it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, do you think there is still? Do you think creativity is rewarded in gaming in terms of difference and standing out? Because I know there's a lot of talk at the moment, and I think there's a lot of truth in it, in terms of algorithms creating a lot of sameness in creativity. Whether it's the movie industry, for example, people talking about like the Marvelization of things and how now it's getting quite difficult for studios to get the budgets for truly innovative new productions and stories, because there's such a formula for money making TV or films that actually it can be hard for new creators. Do you think there's more scope in games for innovation and originality?
I think so, because the act of game of choice and gameplay and just the different types of mechanics in the games, studios are always coming up with new mechanics, new ways to interact with the game. So yeah, definitely, it's much. I think it's much easier to come up with a more unique game than a movie. I think there's just so much you can do, so much more you can do. But I think the bigger companies, the AAA games, the big ones, they're kind of becoming a bit more stagnant now, where they just kind of the new games that are coming out, they kind of take what already works and they just kind of put it into a new skin, make it bigger, and just go from there. But it's the smaller teams like us who really try and innovate, because we have to try and stand out from the big ones. So we try and come up with new mechanics, new themes, new art styles, and so it's the smaller teams that are breaking through with the creativity for sure.
And I guess it's an audience who will. Is it quite a hungry audience in terms of gamers are quite, will go through a lot of games and therefore they welcome something that's fresh and maybe not a AAA big title, and are willing to take a chance and actually spend money on a product that is new and different and maybe they haven't heard of before.
Yeah, I think there's different types of gamers, but I think some just want to stick to the big ones, to the big AAA ones, because they know they're going to get a quality time for their money. But I think there's a lot of people who just want something different, so they go for these lower games that do things differently.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Yeah, because that's the thing with filmmakers that have to sort of piece together the pot of money to make the productions from, I don't know, disparate sources, perhaps. But I find it interesting to look at that model in various areas. I think of musicians and how little royalties they'll get from a platform like Spotify that actually hoovers up a lot of the market. Yeah. And because how does it work these days? I know it's far less of buying a hard copy of a game. I know that a lot, in this digital world, I imagine there's a lot of downloading platforms. Is it Steam on the PlayStation?
It's mostly digital now, yeah. It's so on PC it's Steam, and PlayStation has their own online store, Xbox has it, Nintendo has it. So I think there's still some games that come out on physical form, but yeah, it's very rare. Tales of Iron 1 came out in a physical format on a CD, which was really cool. I mean, I wish that could come back, but I think it just gets too expensive for publishers to deal with that, to distribution and making the covers and stuff. I think it gets too much, and it's just more profitable doing it digitally.
Maybe
it's a shame, but
maybe it's a case of limited edition. In the way that bands will, I guess, predominantly release on a platform like Spotify, but then through Bandcamp you can buy the vinyl, or that's the more profitable avenue for the band. If the people they know want to support them, or the loyal fans, I guess.
That'd be really nice if we could do a special edition, physical edition with some little toys or sculptures and stuff. That'd be really cool. Yeah,
very cool indeed. Yeah, because much like a vinyl and people wanting to hold that physical thing and own that piece of culture. I guess there's something about that, I have this idea for a short story, or even maybe a longer thing, I don't know, at some point, fiction. And it's about, I had this, being a massive wrestling fan, I had this idea of kids today kind of rejecting the ubiquity of YouTube and all the immediately accessible world of entertainment. And just going back to VHS tape trading and, looking for these obscure Japanese wrestling events with death matches and things. I thought there's something quite cool about that niche and that collector mentality.
Yeah, it's the collection.
The scarcity of it all.
People want to put stuff on their shelf and have a collection. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting, yeah.
Actually, if you say you like wrestling, if you play the first game, there's a whole section in there that's referencing a bunch of wrestlers.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, we're gonna Jack, the producer, he's really good at coming up with puns. Yeah. So he did like a whole section where it's you're fighting in this arena, and there's a bunch of wrestlers, but they've got like puns, like animal puns on famous wrestlers.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. Is there a good sort of vein of humour throughout the games?
Yeah. That's it's quite big. Yeah, it's a lot of puns, a lot of references to other medias and cultures. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh, that's really cool. And do you think, as a studio, do you sort of think longer term beyond Tales of Iron? Like, I guess you've always got ideas kicking around for other things.
Yeah.
Have you got any definitive ambitions, or is it a kind of we'll get through this and then we'll work out where we are in our lives and creativity?
I think we ultimately just want to keep going as far as we can. Just keep making games. We have many ideas. I've got a good idea for a game as well. Pretty much every one of us have their own little personal sort of project that they want to turn into a game. So yeah, there's plenty of ideas. It's just whether we can get funding for that specific idea, or whether it's financially, whether people want to play something like that. But yeah, in the future, just want to keep going.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's really cool. Do you each sort of do you create outside of your work on the games? Like, I know you make models, paint models and things like that. Like, and what about the other guys? I ask because I'm always really interested in the balance between what I term as intellectual creativity and emotional creativity. So, emotional creativity being just the stuff that maybe you have in you just want to make, and you just want to feel that pleasure of making and making art.
Yeah, I don't know about the other guys, but I know Dan does a little bit of personal stuff as well. He does some comics, and he has a couple of stories in his mind that he draws sometimes. But I think we do a little bit on the side. But I personally have kind of gone away from doing drawing in my personal time, because I just do it so much at work. So that's why I started doing models, miniatures, because it's much more physical, and I can still be creative. I can still create stuff and be satisfied with the end product, but it's not actual drawing. Yeah, I want to keep the drawing for work. Yeah, but do physical art with in my free time.
That's interesting, isn't it? I very rarely draw in my own time for pleasure now. I write. That's my bigger pleasure. There's many avenues really, but I speak to people who write poetry, and they would never dream of doing that in their work, in their professional work. But I do think it's relatively important to keep things fresh, to inform it with other things, whether that's reading or culture, or, like you said, games, films. But just that simple act of making or creating something or doing something with your hands, I think is quite important. But again, different for all people.
Yeah, it's been life changer. Yeah, started doing miniatures and models, because it's like because doing everything digitally, you're creating something that's it's there, people enjoy it, you get pleasure from it, looking at it, but ultimately it's in the ether, it's all just on the computer and on the screen. But actually making something on a table that you can see in 3D, that's really cool. And that's been really cool.
Yeah, maybe a stop motion film in the future of
possibly.
Start bringing those models to life. That'd be cool.
There's been a couple of fans who did like little puppets.
Oh, really?
From the game, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We get loads of fan art actually. That's just really people doing little stories that they created from the Tales of Iron universe.
That's very cool. Yeah. I must admit, I find that fan fiction, alternate stories, all that stuff. Just, I think it's magic. Like, I love it. I love it. That kind of level of nerdery. It's just amazing. Like I mentioned the wrestling earlier. I just spent hours discussing, what could have been done with a storyline with my brother, and it's just like it's kind of, maybe it's sad. No, it's not sad. I love it. I love it too much. But like with anything like that, I think it does. It invites that, and people like to. I guess storytelling is just fundamental to the human condition. So when you tell a story in a magical way like that people can interact with, it's going to have that effect. And
that's really cool. Is that we created something that inspires other people. I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah, it's really cool.
It is. It's really important. Yeah, and it unites people. That's the whole thing. I don't know if you've ever read *Sapiens*, but it's in that book they were saying that I think it's something like the upper limit of people you can truly know or have in your friendship circle is like 150 people. After that, you need a myth, you need a binding narrative. Hence religion, hence football fandom, whatever culture and tribe you want to look at. And games absolutely do that. God, look at the massive fan bases for all those games we talked about, the Final Fantasies, and I was talking about Metal Gear Solid the other day, and I posted on LinkedIn saying about how I turned up at college with a book of Yoji Shinkawa's concept art for Metal Gear Solid, without really knowing why. It just spoke to me, and I relied on good tutors to see that. And admittedly, they rolled their eyes a little bit, but then sort of worked with me to work out what it was that spoke to me about that, and then point that in a direction that they felt might help me develop more. But it's that binding thing that people come together over.
Yeah, it's sharing a story and expanding on the story as well.
And you get in with any story, there are archetypes and themes that are run throughout human history. So
Absolutely.
The depth of Tales of Iron.
Well, it's grown so much bigger than we thought. That's for sure.
That's really, really cool. I love it. And no, it sounds like it's on the road to being a success. You showed me the magazine cover last week. That was cool.
Yeah, that was really cool. That's actually part of that having something physical. It had that was a nice spark. It was like, oh, that's really nice.
The timestamp, isn't it? You know, we all keep magazines or that kind of thing of a moment in time when something was featured in that way. It's beautiful. Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see what's in the future for Oddbug, and I need to play the bloody thing. But I'm not a console for years, but the kids are getting to an age where I'm going to start thinking about that soon. So
that's it. Yeah, once they get into gaming, that could be one of their first games. Yeah, and it's maybe not, because it is quite gory in some bits, but maybe when they grow up a little. Yeah. But we even have like an easy mode as well. Yeah. For people who don't really play games as much. So yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool for this game.
Is it on is it all platforms?
All platforms, yeah. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, PC.
Oh well, that's a definite thing. So I was toying with Nintendo for the kids when they're a bit bigger, and I was wondering if it was going to be available on there. So if that's the case, then happy days. I'll be maybe my first purchase.
Yeah, it's actually, I think, it's probably the second best console to play it on is the Switch, because you can take it anywhere, and the smaller screen actually makes the art look much nicer as well. It's all kind of condensed. Yeah, you don't look at it on a big screen, but on a smaller screen, all the details kind of come out a little bit. Yeah, so I quite like it on a smaller screen.
Nice, that's really cool. Oh, one thing I forgot to ask you about that I wanted to touch upon was the mechanics of it, the movement, the motion, the animation. Like whose role is that to bring your work to life in a motion sense? So
that'd be Dan. Yeah, Dan from the company, Dan Robinson. So he does the animations. He comes up with the characters. He animates them. He even so when we have enemies that you fight in the game, he comes up with the way they move, the way they fight, the way the combat works. Yeah.
And he would sketch that or present that in a sort of still for you to show. Because I imagine, let's say, for example, fireballs go through the air and come down. I guess all that stuff is important for you to understand, to create the actual art for that.
Yeah, we would we usually talk about what sort of enemy it is and what kind of what. So, like in the second game, there's an enemy who's a chef, and he's brutally cutting up rats and eating them, obviously. Cooking a bit rat stew, you know. So that was kind of his archetype. So from there, I knew kind of what I wanted to do. Environment, of course, a big nasty kitchen with like hooks and stuff on it, and I kind of take what the character is and try and represent his personality in the background of that fight. And then. Dan, he just kind of slowly builds up the fight. First, it's very simple. First, you just little with like no art. You know, it's just kind of shapes moving around. But slowly, you put in art, you put in the animations, you put in effects, and it all comes together.
Cool. That's very cool. I'll see that scene. That sounds really cool. There must be a lot of fun involved with something like that, you know, where you've got, okay, this is a bad character. And for that. So, that's the sort of, I think that's the stuff that I subconsciously, without understanding how, when I arrived at college, I think that's the kind of stuff I had in my mind. That's the creativity, that's the storytelling that I wanted to be a part of somehow, which I think is why eventually I've gravitated as much towards writing as I have illustration, even though that's still my day job and I still love it. I think that they're two different storytelling vehicles, and I think the writing enables me to have that sense of fun and detail, maybe more so than the illustration.
Yeah, it's kind of like illustrating a picture, because if you drew a picture in a book and you was to write a story about it, it's kind of the same thing. It kind of goes, either way.
Yeah, complement one another.
Complements each other, yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. Brilliant. Well, I mean, the last thing I want to ask you, first guess that I've asked this, but it's something that I thought I used to do a bookend question early on when I started the podcast, and then I stopped doing that, and I had an idea for a new one, and it's basically a sort of to give us a sense of you and your creativity on your worst day and your best day, because I think this is something, you know, we all like to glamorize what we do and show off the highlights and everything else, but as we hit upon there, some of the things we talked about, like the disconnect from moving from the space of a shared office and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's specific to creativity because it's such an extension of self. You know, when we get into this world, we do it because we feel something that's very real and it's innate. It's not so much that we look at a job list and go, well, that one's going to pay well. I think first we look with the magic and the sort of dreamer in us.
Yeah.
And the pitfall of that is that we're quite vulnerable because of that. So I thought it would be a nice new bookend question for the show is to ask, just give us a snapshot of you on your worst day and your best day as a person who leads with creativity, I guess.
Yeah. I think, okay, well, best day. Best day, it's when it's when I can see what the guys have been doing, and I can get really inspired by maybe Dan did a new boss or a new move or a new animation that really inspires me to like, oh, maybe that could work really well with an environment piece, and or like a piece in environment that I can then draw, and then that kind of snowballs into like, oh, maybe this would work in this environment, and then I start sketching out a whole new level or whatnot, and like seeing that other people have been created something new and they're happy with it inspires me, and that gets me going, and then that just kind of snowballs. So a good day, is like seeing other people do well, getting inspired, and just start making use.
It's almost like a collective flow state. So you've attuned to that flow, and then I get that completely. And then it's the momentum of it all. Yeah,
so I definitely get inspired just by seeing other people stuff. A bad day is when I don't get to talk to anyone. Everyone's just kind of stuck in their own work because everyone's got so much work to do, so we don't really get to talk. And I'm suddenly like, I have the next day is milestone day, and I have to make something, but I haven't done enough. So I get stuck in my head, being like, oh, I need to do something, but I can't. And usually I squeeze out something towards the end of the day, but I still feel bad about it.
All the fear and doubt and the lack of flow, and it's just because it runs counter to the first bit, doesn't it? It's just I get it. So there's days like that, but it's getting better. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's been a pleasure, Martin, and thank you. I've been glad to be able to delve into it in depth, but
thanks for having me.
It's going to be insightful for listeners, for fans of the game, and I hope it continues to be successful. Yeah,
we can do it again when the third game's out.
Yeah, absolutely. Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
Massive thank you to Martin Reimann for taking the time to talk about Tales of Iron 1, 2 and Oddbug Studios with me. I love that. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope it gave you the same insights that it did me about the video game world. Maybe you know a lot more than me, and that's baby stuff, but I love Martin's story too, and I found it particularly interesting talking about the change from being in a studio environment and being able to work on these games together with the rest of Oddbug Studios to then have to go to the solitude and the kind of distance. I find it really hard. I'm still working it out myself. My coaching practice is giving me a lot more connection and interaction at the moment, and it's something I want to push more and more. So if that's of interest to you, give me a shout, get me out of my garden studio. I would love to come and bring over 15 years of understanding of creativity and the human condition to help you, your staff, to get better at theirs, to consciously understand and to master their creativity in a way that none of us really can without some outside help. It's why I've therapists, because I can't see my wood for my trees, and I doubt you can see yours. So get in touch. But to hear it in Martin's context, I absolutely loved, and meeting him on that dog walk, like I say, and seeing him in his moments of triumph and his moments of struggle when it's just not going or the deadline's too intense. And my word, we've had some deep chats there. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I really loved it. We've got some great conversations coming up. We've got PJ Richardson, co-founder of Laundry Studio. We've got Jennifer Mertel from Mark's, VP of Strategy. That's a deep one. We got deep quick and it's great. So we've got loads coming up. We've got loads of cool stuff. I'm hoping to bring in some of my conversations from Paradiso too, with Timothy Goodman and Jessica Hish, and also with Tyler Schlossberg and Owen Harvey. So Watch this space. It's all going on. There's going to be creative diary episodes coming up too. I keep writing that thing. You can read the written version at thecreativecondition.com. You can also find out about my coaching, the one-to-one pit stop or the agency stuff. Drop me a note through the form. We'll jump on a Zoom call. We'll see if it's a good fit, and we'll go from there. Head to oddbug.co.uk for Oddbug Studio's work. Read all about Tales of Iron 2, and their other projects now where you can contact them also. Cheers for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, Illustration X, representing a wonderful global range of illustrators and animators. You can see their portfolios and all their other great work for the creative industry and their support for the show for the last 10 years at illustrationx.com. It means a lot. It also means a lot you listening. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Please tell a friend. Please rate, review, subscribe, and check out all the resources at thecreativecondition.com, the books, the podcast. It's all there. Let me know of any improvements you spot. I'm happy to listen. I've got an iron chin. Nice one, guys. Have an awesome week, and I'll chat to you soon.